Hi. Okay, so we're going to do a largely lower body, hips, feet kind of session today. Okay. We're going to start off. My tennis ball is completely broken, but that's okay. But I want you to get a ball and get a block to start. Okay, and just roll the bottom of your foot a little bit. My rolling isn't very good. I'm going to hold this down and just lift my big toe. I kind of find using this like trigger point type movement, holding the fascia in one place and getting the movement. Beyond that, even like standing with my heel on the ball and trying to lift my big toe is quite good. Coming just in front of my heel, lifting, lifting. It's really great as well for just letting this work all the way up through the nervous system, relax the breath, ground basically. Okay. Rocking kind of over it, so from the front of your heel to the back of the ball of your foot, rocking over the ball. So just letting that pressure come through, rolling back, trying to keep the big toe in contact more or less with the ground. It doesn't have to be really hard, but you're not moving it away. You're just letting the arch kind of do that. So my arch kind of flattens as I come forward. And this isn't really a pronation drill, we're just really working with the fascia. I'm gonna let my weight, so I've rocked forward, now I'm gonna let my body weight come back, my pelvis and my chest onto my heel, keeping that grounded contact, and then just ever so slightly rocking back forward to lift my heel and lift my big toe, maybe. Oh, there it is. Oh. And I'm just doing a little bit of this across the ball. Great. Just letting those kind of bits between my toes soften. Oh. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, now doing this side. And this is one of the reasons actually that I like having a broken tennis ball or something that isn't like really rigid. Because it just gives enough resistance and enough information that it lets me, obviously if I had a nice strong tennis ball, then that's great. So if you can kind of have a broken one and a normal one, so you do a little bit of rolling just to kind of waken up some of those receptors. You've got so many receptors on the sole of the foot. Okay, and here I am, I'm actually going to go onto my heel and just do that big toe lift a little bit, trying to keep the weight really on the ball. And this is another really great way to kind of get that awareness of your heel contact. I know, like, certainly for myself, I'm always on my front foot and I'm always wanting to move too far ahead. Little metaphor of life. Okay, great. And then coming forward, doing my rocking from the front of my heel to the back of the ball of my foot. Oh, it's hard to get back on this left side. Yep. Well, there it is. It's easier when I drive it from my pelvis, actually. It's like I'm going zhuk, 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 zhuk. Okay, and then coming forward a little bit with it and just really trying to get that space, that rolling and separating and rolling and separating, really getting the intrinsic muscles working in my feet between all the toe bones and further up into the midfoot. Really letting some separation kind of happen. Oh, I need a little bit more over that way. So yeah, really kind of just get to know your foot a little bit with these movements. Oh. Great, and that feels nice. I'm going to let myself for a minute, okay, just standing here, going this way, rocking. So as I push, I'm coming onto the outside of this foot, the inside of this foot. Moving from side to side, letting it happen, letting it happen. We're going to refine this movement into a bit more of a kind of hip shift in a minute. Great. And just really get your weight back, feel your heels on the ground. Let your ankle absorb that pressure for a minute. Let your ankle absorb that range, and then just gently lift your heels. Oh, lengthening all the way up. Oh. Great. Okay, so we're gonna lie flat down. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit sideways onto you. And what I want you to do is just, you're doing that with your foot, right? So your heel is staying in contact with the foot, and you'll feel it pulling your whole body. This is called skin glide, and it is a really nice way just to make contact with the whole body and just start to let all the fascia move. Alright, just bringing your legs up, just let them just be really intuitive with what your body wants to do as you come out of that skin glide for a minute. And just kind of reaching, just letting things kind of massage out a little bit. Like somebody's picking you up, like you've got, like you're being controlled by puppet strings. You're being pulled up. Let your whole shoulder blade come around as if this part of your body's just sagging back to the floor. See what happens when you turn your palms towards your face. You probably find your shoulder blades aren't coming up into your ears so much, and you can kind of feel your back a little bit more. Turning, puppet string on the left being pulled, puppet string on the right being pulled, and the center of your body still really heavy. Keep your palms facing more or less towards you. Oh, so nice. Let both knees come up. Just take a nice little stretch to one side. Coming on over. Nice little stretch to the other side. Stir the pot. And the other way. as a way to really feel my feet on the ground and this extension through my hips. So I haven't pushed so far up that I'm massively arching my back or coming up onto my neck. And it's also quite a nice way to like start to feel my breath coming into my back and getting that kind of 360 range. Conker's falling on my roof. Great. Okay, so really nicely mobilized up through that entire fascial little system, through the bottom of the body, coming up into the back of the ribs. And now we're going to take a position where I want you to let one leg lengthen out to the side. Okay, hands on the ground. And you're going to kind of try and, I'm going to just try and do this from the side. Actually, you'll probably see it a little bit better. So essentially, I'm going to kind of feel like I'm pushing this side over. Pushing from this side, and it's creating a kind of a rotation on my other leg. Okay. And then I'm going to see if I can really make this side of my pelvis lift up with this push from the side. Great. Okay, let's go the other way. So pushing from my right, making this side kind of roll. Almost like a hike. Like this side is shortening, but I'm not driving that shortening through here. I'm just letting this come up. And now I'm going to let this side kind of come back. So I'm pushing this up, creating a shift. So one side's done that, and one movement's doing that, one side's doing that. And we're letting all of this lengthen out. Lovely. And from there, I want you to have your hands and knees just in that kind of 90-90, and we're going to do a few like cat camel, but I call this boobs and butt because I really want you to drive from the end of the spine that wants to do the opposite. So the bottom of your back wants to do that, the top of your back wants to do that. So we're going to go butt, really get that kind of tuck under in the lower back, and then just let the upper back just go to its point. And then we're going to go boobs, 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 boobs. Really getting that dropping through. And the lower back just comes up to its point. And then you drive butt, 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 butt. Low ribs coming back with the out breath. Rounding up. Boobs, boobs, boobs. Let the ribs flare forward. Let your pelvis flare out. And then butt, 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 butt. Ribs coming back. And you'll feel this little bit of contraction through here. Great. Okay, and then just come and sit in this kind of fairly slumpy, comfortable, hanging out position. And we're going to start off with driving this knee forward. My forearm's about halfway down my forearm is connected to my knee, okay? So about halfway, and they're gonna stay stuck together. So the knee drives forward. One more, drives forward, and as you come up, let the back hand push you. And just let your body go with it. You don't have to control anything. Get this real sense of pulling and pushing, working together. Fab. Okay, let's go to the other side. So about halfway down my forearm, my nice slumpy position. I'm going to drive forward. And again, so I'm not using my back hand at the moment. I'm just getting a sense of that knee moving. What's it taking with it? Where is it going? Where is the pressure on my foot changing? Okay, now I'm pushing forward with that back hand. And I don't need to move this further. There's a real temptation to move like really into stretching, to kind of force something. And it's okay just to leave a reserve of range. Because invariably, if you're having to force it, you're making movement come into one place where you really need the movement somewhere else. And it'll come. It'll come around with something else that we're doing, or coming around through this. There it is. And now for me, I'm starting to loosen. So before, and this is really common for me on this side, to really kind of want to just arch my back, and which means that my pelvis tips forward, right? But if I don't let that happen, and I slowly let all of this part of my rib cage kind of be integrated and involved, yeah, then it starts to come in a really natural way right up through this line. Oh, I'm just reaching out. Okay, and just as you're sitting here, I want you to just kind of feel like you're pushing, you feel like there's an invisible force between your knees and your hands that you're pushing down on. Let your pelvis be neutral. Let the ribs drop and relax a little bit. Pushing down on this invisible force down, and at the same time pushing your elbows out. Finding your breath up the front line here. Let it relax down. Start to make your breath softer and quieter, all through your nose. Find your back with your in-breath. Find your lower ribs with your out-breath. And open and stretch. So feeling like you're pushing away with this hand, pulling back with this hand. These ribs are still fairly integrated. You're not just arching, pulling back with the elbow and the shoulder and the hand, letting it create that rotation, come out of it a little bit. Oh. So I'm now And I've brought my elbows down and I'm pulling them towards me a little bit, opening up my back. And I'm doing very, very small half moons with my neck in that position, just because it feels good to me. Don't force anything. Great. So that really felt like it was opening up for me in lots of bits of my shoulders and my back. And now I'm gonna just kind of let myself bounce a little bit. So I'm just using my knees. We can take this up into a heel bounce. I'm not gripping with my toes and keeping my weight behind, like all my body is behind the middle of my foot here. I can keep my heels on the ground and make this more like, where's this coming up? I let my kind of head and neck get involved. Where is there a stop? Where is there an urge? You might want to move a little bit kind of side to side. Yeah, maybe getting into this bit, right? And it tells you, it will pull you and ask you to stay a little while. And nothing has to be too much in range. Oh, that feels so good. So remember, this is this kind of mid-range questioning, you know, leaving a bit of space for the body to answer you is so incredibly nourishing for our fascia. This kind of compressing, shearing, rotating. This is the fascia asking and getting the nourishment that it needs, the movement, the torsion, the almost like a vacuum coming back in, pulling the water into the cells. Okay, okay, so we're gonna do now, we're gonna grab the block, and I want you just to play a little bit with being here. So you're up here, and we're just gonna let the leg hang down, okay? So I'm up on my block, and I'm just letting my weight hang down. I've deliberately left my toes off the end of my block so that I'm not going to toe grip, okay? Now you can do this if you want, but if you feel more stable at the moment not doing that, that's fine. And what I'm going to do is kind of bring this hip up, but I am not driving it from this side. I'm driving it from here. So I'm going to make this glute contract, and this comes straight up, okay? And down, and up, and down. So this kind of hip shifting is really helpful for kind of developing this awareness of the pelvis moving in this motion, which is a really important part, and it's often where we lose and we cheat and we try and get that movement somewhere else. Okay, let's swap. And you'll find that one leg is a little bit better at this. Try and let your pelvis stay in a nice neutral so you're not tipping forward because you'll lose. You can be next to a wall or in front of a chair doing this, just feeling. And you can really see the difference. If I try and like pull this up, I'm kind of, everything comes over, right? I shift that way. When I really use this side, it's a much more like, like Madonna's Vogue. And as you come up, I just want you to notice, as this is up, you've used this hip, and your standing leg, you should feel the pressure on the inside of your foot. And as you come away, it drops back to the outside. Okay, the outside of your foot here. And as you come up, it comes all the way through that line. Brilliant. Okay. So now, again, you can try this one. And you can try and use the block or not using the block. Okay, see what you've got. And you probably have a little bit more range to play with. You can see again my left side, it wants to cheat and kind of hoik up where I arch my back and it tilts forward. I really keep that posterior tilt. I get a much purer movement all the way through that, and everything on both sides has to work, right from my ribs to my foot, has to work much more purely. Amazing. Okay. So we're going to go now into the bear. Okay. So feet against the wall. We're going to come up. You don't have a wall handy, don't worry too much, but I want you to really keep this awareness of the line between your heel and your upper hamstring where it connects with your butt. Okay. You're going to breathe out, get those low ribs back, and then you're going to come up and really try and push your heels into the wall, keeping that slight pelvic tilt, the ribs back. Two more breaths. Heels, heels, heels. Slight pelvic tilt, ribs back, soft breath. You can push this up into like a tall down dog. Let your sit bones tuck up to the sky a little bit. As you breathe in, feel as if your pelvis is kind of separating a little bit left to right. So you're creating like this in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. Fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna use a block here. You can just roll up the edge of your mat. I'm going to use a slant board. The slant board is a little bit too steep for me. So let me come side onto you a little bit here, like this. Okay, so my block goes between my thighs, okay, and I have a slightly narrower stance than even probably in standing. I'm really going to get my pelvis underneath me, softening my breath, softening my low ribs, integrating through here. And I'm going to feel like my pelvis is kind of curling forward to close at the front, squeezing my thighs together, letting myself find the insides of my feet if I need to, when I need to, taking my bum straight down, and up and straight down, squeeze right from the pelvis, staying in my heels. If your feet are too wide, then you can get an ache in your knees. If you're just squeezing from your knees and you haven't changed your pelvis, you'll get an ache in your knees. And if you're not used to moving your knees, you'll get an ache. So ultimately, we want to we really want to be able to get all the way down without moving too much forward in our upper body. Really just using the squeeze and coming up pretty much the same way. That's a huge movement, so really don't worry if you can only get a little bit like there. That's even great, and you can do this against a wall as well, where you're squeezing maybe the block sideways with a wider squat. A bit slippy on this, but you're kind of squeezing down, getting used to that movement. I don't have the traction on this carpet to come back up. But I'm really getting that range and letting the back of the pelvis open, letting the knees move. So that's called Zercher, and it is really helpful to have your heels raised when you're doing that. Otherwise, your ankle doesn't have the space to kind of shift and move in the way that it needs to. Okay, brilliant. So you can pause here if you want to practice that a little bit or come back to it. We want to have done really about 2 rounds of 10 with the Zerchers at some point through the day to kind of really start to increase that range. So keep your stuff handy and come back to it later and just have one more go. Okay, I'm gonna get this out of the way. If you have a foam roller, grab it. I want you to do what's called a Nordic. Now these always slide on me. And I come down. No, it's gonna slide. Okay, there it is. So, make your body long. Okay, I'm just gonna pretend I've got a good grip on that. So you can see that I've let my shoulder blades round around my rib cage, which I've opened at the back of my rib cage, and I'm really trying to squeeze onto this foam roller between my thighs and my heels so that I'm getting my hamstrings. And we're really using this line, okay? So really helping you to pull with your back of your pelvis down and integrating into that back line. So important to be able to find the heels, find the back of the pelvis, and be able to control your pelvis separately to other things. Really, that's a lot of what we're trying to educate with these different movements, because it's so great for spinal health. And the Zercher is quite hard to hold for more than 2 or 3 breaths at a time when you're starting. And we want to build up to being able to do that. And sometimes I use a bigger foam roller or a nice big bolster. That's quite helpful, or a foam roller wrapped in a towel so that we've got that grip a little bit, or I've got that grip. If you're doing it in the gym, a sandbag is amazing for this. Yeah, absolutely great. So try that out, okay? Okay, we're going to do, I'm going to come this way onto you, come a little bit back. So we're going to go into a bridge, but we're going to make a little difference, okay? So, yeah, you still got me? Okay, so first of all, I want you to feel like you're pulling your heels back towards you a little bit, okay? And then I want you to ever so slightly lift your heels because you're pushing down with the ball of your feet. You're keeping this position here, and then you're gonna come up into a bit of a bridge. And you don't need a lot of movement, okay? But we're just keeping that, and we're gonna keep going up. And just tap the ground a little bit just to see how much of a heel lift you've got. Because if you're really up on your heels, you've gone too far. Make sure both legs are working. Get that little bit of a pull back. Oh. Tap the ground. Tap the ground. Just waking it up. Keep the big toe connected with the floor. Ground, pulling back a little bit, tap, tap. And my left side is lazy and my left side is shaking like crazy now, which is great because the information is getting through. Every time I tap, my shaking goes mental, and it just shows you how quickly we can lose it. Soften your breathing. Coming down. Nice and slow. Well done. That is a super hard exercise, and most of you probably cramped on that. It's totally okay. Let that movement come in low and slow as you come back to it, okay? Lengthening the heel away and then the ball of the foot. Lengthen the heel away and then the ball of the foot. Amazing. Grab your foam roller again. We're going to go and do 90-90 hip rolls on the wall. So hips and knees at 90 degrees. You're going to hold on to the foam roller. And I want you to, it's this hip shift kind of thing again, where you're really like driving the side back, but it's coming up a little bit. And you end up your hips shifting that way. So you're inside of this, this is my left leg, pulling back and loading slightly the inside of my left foot, outside of my right foot, and I can feel that shift happening. Keeping. So this is so interesting. This is a really important bit of information actually, because my right pelvis just really wants to like anteriorize all the time, the same way I always wanted to come into the ball of my foot. For me to really get the left side up, but without just losing my pelvis, and deferring into a hip kind of hike on the left, then I really have to focus on keeping that. But the back of my left rib cage, when I do that, if I haven't made the space, I go into a cramp. So one of the ways to really make space for the back of the left rib cage is to create this supinated reach, right? So we're up, from the shoulder blade, my palm facing me, and letting my left low ribs stay down. Just getting my position again. Okay, I'm letting my left, now I've made space at the back. So now I'm going to really focus on not just letting this roll that way. I'm making it go up while the right comes back. Oh, so hard at really keeping that tuck. And I'm just staying here and I'm just really working this, really like mentally zoning in on everything that has to work to let this happen, for this to come back and over. Softening my breath. Letting it come into my back. So now my right side's starting to come back up. I'm really getting this left side back. I'm really focusing on anchoring my foot to the wall, letting that wake up the connection to my heel and my hamstring. Left side going up, I'm not letting it loose. And interestingly, like my left glute and up here is on fire because, you know, trying to work all of that together is so important for our gait. It's so important for our pelvic floor, for our pelvic control, for our lower back health. But we don't think in most situations about how to let that work together and how to isolate and stay with it and stay with what's difficult and uncomfortable. And so all the time we're expanding that window of tolerance to looking at the details, to being with it, to being with our breath, and to letting it happen and to let ourselves move into a new capacity. And isn't that what it's always all about? You know, I could be talking about our emotional health and well-being as much as I'm talking about, you know, the connection of my foot to my pelvis. So notice what comes up for you in some of those confrontations. Okay, great. So, so this is, we're going back to a bridge, feet on the ground. We're doing something a little bit different. So I'm going to clasp my hands behind my head, okay, like so, clasping my hands. And I'm reaching my elbows up to the ceiling. My head is resting on the floor. I've got that little bit of traction in my heels to my hamstrings. So I'm really anchored in the back of my pelvis to the floor. And then I'm going to bring one elbow up. And then the other elbow up. So this is a little bit different than this one. When we were doing the puppet strings. Just letting the rib cage roll. Now, interestingly, that's making my back tight. You might be finding the same. I'm just going to put my feet on the wall and see if that creates a bit of better space. I did this the other day and I really liked it. And I'm really not liking it right now. So yeah, let me know how you feel about that one. Let me know how you feel, like what's catching in your back. And if you really just want to do the puppet strings and it feels better, totally fine. We're going to finish again with a skin glide. You're doing brilliantly. And just let your legs flop. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me in that. I really enjoyed that. There were definitely parts of that that we could do so much slower, that we could stay with more repetitions, really taking our time. And if there are bits of that you think, oh yeah, I'd like to meet that challenge a little bit more and expand my capacity, go back and do those little chunks and take them into your gym routine or your morning stretch. And I'd love to know how you get on. See you soon.